But he said, I don't think he could win. I don't think he could win. He's too progressive coming from this state and what he's done in this state to win in any southern state, any red state. I disagreed, but no, this is a progressive African-American owned station, and I'm sure they like you, but he doesn't think you can win. What do you say to that?
If there's one thing we've learned about politics, it's that your so-called friends can sometimes roast you harder than your enemies. And Gavin Newsom just learned that the hard way. Because when even Bill Maher, a guy who has openly admired him in the past, starts clowning on your leadership, your political career is circling the drain. This wasn't some offhand jab either. This was Bill Maher taking a flamethrower to the California governor's shiny image, torching him on live TV with no hesitation. And the brutal part, Maher didn't just rip into Newsom's policies. He went after his persona, his ambition, and even reduced his entire political legacy down to one painfully shallow compliment. He looks like he could do.
Gavin Newsom is the governor of California, home to 12% of all Americans and 50% of all Mexicans. On the upside, Newsom is the only governor, with the possible exception of Kristi Noem, who looks like they could do...
Ouch. Imagine being the governor of the most powerful state in the country only to have your biggest accomplishment boiled down to, well, at least you're hot. But let's be real. Doesn't that say everything about Newsom's leadership? California has more wealth, more resources, and more innovation than almost any place on earth. Yet, under his watch, it's become the poster child for everything wrong with progressive politics. Homelessness is out of control. Crime is climbing. Businesses are fleeing in droves. And taxes are high enough to make your wallet cry. And instead of fixing any of that, Naomi's big headline accomplishment is gender-neutral toy aisles. You can't make this stuff up. And here's where Bill Maher really hit the nerve. He compared being governor of California to being Britney Spears' conservator. Translation.
I don't want to say he really, really wants to be the guy who steps in if the current nominee goes down, but he gets an alert on his phone every time Biden can't think of a word. The downside is that governor of California is kind of like being conservator for Britney Spears.
It's basically a never-ending disaster that no one really wants to take responsibility for. That's not just a punchline. That's a full-on body slam. When your leadership of one of the richest states in the world gets compared to managing a celebrity meltdown, you know something is deeply wrong. But let's dig into this. Because Maher wasn't just cracking jokes. He was exposing the reality most Californians already know. Take homelessness, for example. California has practically rolled out the red carpet for the homeless. Free services, lenient laws, little to no enforcement on street camping. It's basically an open invitation. And surprise, surprise. When you make it comfortable to live on the streets, more people live on the streets. Instead of taking a tough, practical approach, Naomi's policies turned sidewalks into tent cities and neighborhoods into outdoor shelters. Compassion number chaos. Absolutely.
I'll attack him on California's homeless problem, but there's a response to that. The homeless can live anywhere, but they choose California.
And the crime situation, same story. California has become a safe haven, not for law-abiding citizens, but for criminals. Break into a store and you might just get a slap on the wrist. Loot thousands of dollars worth of merchandise and you'll probably be back on the streets the same day. This isn't justice. This is lawlessness disguised as progress. And while politicians like Newsom are busy patting themselves on the back for being compassionate, everyday residents are left to deal with the fallout, rising crime, unsafe neighborhoods, and a collapsing quality of life. But wait, it gets worse. California isn't just bleeding from crime and homelessness. It's bleeding people, literally. Major companies, high-profile individuals and regular middle-class families are packing up and leaving. And they are not just leaving quietly. They are running. Elon Musk gone. Joe Rogan gone. Countless businesses gone. Why? Because Newsom's economic policies have made California unlivable for anyone outside the billionaire class. Sky-high taxes, endless regulations, and suffocating costs of living have destroyed the middle class. California used to be the land of opportunity. Now it's the land of escape. And the irony is brutal. California should be the model for prosperity. With its wealth, natural beauty, entertainment industry, and tech innovation, it should be leading the country. Instead, it's the cautionary tale of what happens when slick speeches replace actual leadership. And Maher of all people is now saying out loud what millions have been thinking. Gavin Newsom is all style, no substance. That's the thing about Newsom.
Of course, the knock on Gavin has always been that he's slick. Yeah, you know what? I'm okay with that. I notice slick is something no one has been accusing Biden of lately. Do you want good at talking or don't you? Newsom is the best communicator in the party with a history of standing up to bullies, and his name lends itself to the best slogan since I Like Ike. I'm having Gavin.
His slick, his charismatic, his polished, his basically a walking campaign ad. And for a while, that worked. He could charm a crowd, deliver a speech that sounded like it was straight out of a Hollywood script, and dodge tough questions with a smile. But here's the problem. Charm doesn't build affordable housing. Slick words don't lower crime. A pretty face doesn't stop businesses from fleeing your state. At some point, leadership requires more than being photogenic and knowing how to spin. And you know who's catching on? Voters. Not just Republicans, but Democrats, too. Bill Maher told a story about being on a progressive African-American-owned radio station, where even the host said Nwomi was too progressive to win a national election. That's not coming from the GOP. That's coming from Newsom's own political allies.
I was on KBLA yesterday, with my friend Tavis Smiley. I'm an investor and a supporter of that station. And he said, who do you want to run for president? I mentioned, I think you'd be good at the job. Not this year, we know. No, I know. But he said, I don't think he could win. I don't think he could win. He's too progressive coming from this state and what he's done in this state to win in any southern state, any red state. I disagreed, but no, this is a progressive African-American-owned station, and I'm sure they like you, but he doesn't think you.
When your biggest fans start calling you unelectable, you've got a problem. And here's the thing. Newsom knows this. That's why he's constantly trying to position himself as the guy who can swoop in if Biden falters. He's hungry for the presidency, no matter how much he denies it. But deep down, even he has to know the truth. If he can't manage California, what makes him think he can manage America? And let's not forget the woke circus. Oh boy, this is where Newsom really loses people. Bill Maher nailed it when he mocked California's law requiring toy stores with more than 500 employees to have gender-neutral sections.
Look at the swing states. There's only 8 of them.
Right. Well, I mean, California is an interesting case study, isn't it? It's the size of 21 state populations combined.
Yeah.
2/3 of the state is very deeply red. We don't need to be lectured on rural politics or border issues. I mean, in so many ways, these are familiar issues, and the issues of the heartland of the United States are very much a part and parcel of the work we're doing in this state. But look, I understand this notion that you're from the coast, you don't understand those things. You can't talk the language. You're not able to communicate, and you're not able to actually encourage and find that common ground.
No, it's stuff like there's a new law in this. I think we have way too many regulations and laws, as we've talked about. And this one, I think, says if you're a department store with over 500 employees, you have to have a gender-neutral toy department.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, I get it.
Seriously, this is what the government is spending time and energy on while homelessness spirals and crime climbs, because apparently kids can't just play with toys anymore. They need to make a political statement while doing it. It's laughable. It's tone-deaf. And it's exactly why voters across the country roll their eyes at politicians like Nwomi. Think about it. Families are struggling to pay rent. Neighborhoods are dealing with rising crime. Small businesses are closing under the weight of taxes and regulation. And Newsom's big contribution, making sure Barbie and Hot Wheels are on the same shelf. This isn't leadership. This is pandering to the woke mob at the expense of real solutions.
Too much government there.
That's an interesting one because the department stores came to us supporting that. And they were the ones making a case for that. They were making a case they're already moving in that direction.
Wanted you to make a law about them?
Well, but they supported the legislation. It wasn't legislation that was enacted, that was initiated from my office, but it was legislation that came up with interesting support from the industry itself. But I understand how that's exploited, and good people can disagree. But that's not something we woke up and said, this is a top priority for the state, when we know what the top priorities are: homelessness, housing, the issues of crime, quality of life, and issues related to regulation and taxes, which are all top of mind.
Then there's the water issue. Oh man, this one's almost comical. If it weren't so serious, nearly 80% of California's water goes to agriculture, and a massive chunk of that is used to grow almonds. Do you know how much water it takes to grow a single pound of almonds? Over 1,900 gallons.
And good job this year making it rain.
You're welcome.
That was my legislative priority.
It was looking bad there for a while, and we still don't have enough water in the Colorado River and all this stuff. Yeah. And then whenever I read 80% of the water goes to agriculture, almonds. Right. No one ever asked you about almonds? Oh, I'm going to ask you about almonds.
And yet ordinary Californians are constantly being told to ration water like they're living through the apocalypse. Shorter showers, brown lawns, strict water limits. Meanwhile, corporate farms are guzzling billions of gallons to grow nuts. It's insanity. And when pressed on it, Newsom doesn't really have an answer. Just another polished speech about.
We grow a boatload of almonds.
I'm well aware.
You know how much water it takes?
Many gallons.
1,900 gallons to grow a pound of almonds. Yeah. Come on, man. Take on big almond.
Take on big almond.
I mean, it's not like we don't have the water.
No. You're right about it. It's not that we don't have the water. That said, the last couple of years were tough. I mean, but it's also where the water's falling and we're not capturing it. And we're not capturing those extreme years with these atmospheric rivers. Wets are getting a lot wetter, dry's drier, hot's getting a lot hotter. And so we've got to modernize our conveyance system. We've got to modernize our storage, not just above ground, but below ground. And so that's a big part of our focus and frame, including desalination plants. We have 20 projects just on desal that we're working on today. So we put out a detailed water strategy that includes, by the way, getting that Delta Conveyance project back up and operational, and includes the first above ground off stream storage facility in half a century in the state, which, by the way, is being aided by a regulatory package I pushed forward to reduce red tape in the state of California.